But I've been 18 years in horticulture now. You've probably seen me when I was younger, probably around with my father doing the town flowers and stuff. I did horticulture in college in Colossus Stefan Efa. I did 15 years of garden maintenance, and I'm nearly 3 years in the garden centre in Bandon Co-op now. I also worked in England in a large estate called Leaford, Putney Salterton. It's a good one to look up. I was there for about 8 weeks, so they have a 26-acre garden, and they had a swimming pool, tennis courts, Victorian wall garden, woods, the whole lot. It was an amazing experience. There'd be bus loads of people who come in as well and visit the garden, and the money will go to charities. It's definitely an interesting one to look up, Leaford. It's possible to visit it as well. It's in Devon.
Sorry, how do you spell it?
Leaford.
Leaford.
L-E and Ford. Putney Salterton, Devon. They have their website. Actually, and how I got involved with that was that up on the high road is a house, Sea House. That's also their house, so they own houses all around the place. And I did garden maintenance for them for 15 years. My father is still going there. Yeah, that's most of my experience. Feels like a long time now. Because most people are quite surprised when they come up to the co-op and they see me and they say, "Oh, do you know, do you work in the garden centre, or do you know something about plants?" And I normally go, yeah, I have 18 years experience. I hope I know what I'm talking about. Was going to run you through some of the bulbs and some of the winter bedding, and maybe do some container planting and talk about that, and about kind of why we do what we do and the reasonings for doing it as well. Because sometimes we do things in gardening and we just do them, but we forget why we actually do them. And when it makes sense, when you know why you're doing it, it just, you're more inclined to do it more often. So going through the bulbs, if you wanted to, you can hand a few of these out, if you wouldn't mind. So there's, have you ever heard of layering bulbs or lasagna planting? Don't like the lasagna planting idea, it sounds more like cooking. But layering is an interesting, different way to use your bulbs. So you could use, say, early flowering ones like the muscari or the miniature daffodils, and put them at the top, then the tulips in the middle, and then maybe alliums at the bottom. So in theory, you'd have something flowering for maybe something like 4 to 6 months of the year, instead of just putting daffodils in. So the daffodils come up, they finish, then the tulips come up, they finish, and then the allium comes up and it finishes. Definitely one tip, there's a few tips, different coloured ones there with different variations. But definitely one of the tips would be is to pick smaller varieties, because we're probably going to use something like this container. So if you put a massive allium in there that's going to grow 1 metre tall, it's going to look a bit silly. So you might use the miniature varieties if you could, so the miniature daffodils, even the muscari are nice and small, or maybe as small enough tulips as you can get. Some of them are quite big. And the allium that I would use would be the Christophi. It's a smaller allium. And generally for that middle layer, really, you're going to use tulips, because kind of, well, it'll be hard, it'll be a struggle to think what else flowers from kind of March, April onwards. But there's a good variety of kind of February, March plants, muscari and tulips and hyacinths and plenty of others. Another little tip for doing that as well is that you put the ones that flower first on top, and then the tulips in the middle, and then summer flowering ones at the bottom. And we probably all tried bulbs over the years and had success in some and not so much success in others. I'm guessing the most success everyone's had is probably daffodils. Yeah. Anything not much come back for anyone in particular?
Tulips.
Yeah, I expected that.
Do you have to pull them? Do you have to pull them after they bloom and refrigerate them or something?
No, but what one big massive one, if you went away with only knowing maybe 2 bits of information from today, is when your bulbs finish flowering, when they've finished, leave the green leaves on them. Do not cut them. And the reason for that is you'd see it a lot with daffodils, and it just makes sense across whatever bulb it is the green. That's how it's absorbed. That's where it's absorbing the photosynthesis to make food for next year. So if you cut the green leaves, it's not making any food for next year. Hence, it doesn't come up next year. So I know they look unsightly, and I know some of us tie them up and do our best. But when they're brown, you can take the leaves off. And if you see anyone trimming them, be just as angry as I am. I've seen it so many times. It's really annoying when someone is paid to cut lawns and they don't know that you don't cut daffodils. It's such a basic one. That's their profession to do that. So do not cut the green leaves. Just leave them go brown. I know they're going to look messy, but that's just the natural thing. The other tip with bulbs would be planting 2 to 3 times their depth. Definitely, that works across everything. That works with seeds, that works with potatoes, that works with bulbs. It doesn't matter what size the bulb is, you can just use that rule. The muscaria are pretty small, and the anemones are possibly even smaller, but it's just 2 times the depth of the bulb, no matter what it is. That will get you by with anything. I would definitely use the 2 to 3 times the depth in the ground. So in the ground, you're probably going to notice yourself, you set your bulbs, then they die away, and then in the summer you forget where they are, and next year we always forget where they are. So if you plant them too high up, you're likely to knock them out when you're weeding anyway, so it just makes sense to plant them at least that depth. The containers are a little bit different, and you probably see when you buy them in supermarkets or in garden centres that they're planted really high up in the pots. Anyone know the reasoning for that? Or guess it?
Sunlight?
Yeah, they'll come up much easier anyway in the pot, but they don't need to go as deep because the compost is obviously quite good quality. You're assuming, I suppose, that it's better quality than the ground. Some of the ground is terrible and full of stones, but it won't need as much because it should have better moisture and all the nutrients and everything. But basically, if you plant it too deep in the pot, it's more inclined to rot because the compost is absorbent of moisture more so than some of the soil we have. So don't plant it so deep. You can literally plant, I think I have one here, some jetfire daffodils. And anyone ever use grit? I know this is a bag of sand, but anyone ever use grit? It's small little stones, tiny little basically stone chippings. They're really, really cheap. It's a 25 kg bag at the co-op is $4.50. It's a no-brainer. Because in the winter you're going to notice, like even the last couple of weeks, they were dreadfully wet weeks. If you leave bulbs in pure compost in the ground like that, and most stuff like cyclamen, they're just going to rot straight away. So just mixing the grit through the pot is a game changer for all of your winter bedding, for all of your bulbs. I would use the grit when you'd be planting them in the ground. I would definitely be going away with today thinking, all right, if I plant anything, I need some grit. It's really cheap and it goes a long way. There are smaller bags, but they tend to be more expensive. So my normal ratio is 1/5 grit, 4/5 compost. And mix it all through. You don't particularly need to put the stones or the crops at the bottom, but if you have some, it's good as well. I generally just mix some grit through when I'm planting up for customers. And I have another great product here as well, this one. I'll explain that soon. So just mix it all through. Like there's quite a lot of grit in that. So I'd say at least 1/5. And obviously with the bulbs is to plant them the right way up. Now that's very obvious with daffodils, that's very obvious. With some others like the anemone, it's quite difficult in comparison, but just do your best anyway, they're more likely to come up. And when I'm planting up the bulbs as well, I normally just finish it off with some grit on the top. So they have plenty of drainage. You can actually see them already poking up. Give them a little bit of a push down. So as well, when you're planting plants like soil contact, so you know when you dig a hole and you just put the plant in, make sure you give it a little extra push, so that the roots need to be in contact with the soil, and sometimes you get this kind of little gap, and that's just not going to help it grow. So always soil contact 2 or 3 times the depth if it's in the ground. It can be quite high up at the top in the pots. And the daffodils are by far and away my favourite. I like the muscari as well, it's like a miniature hyacinth. They generally work really well and come back all the time. The tulips probably have maybe 2 or 3 seasons in them, and then they probably stop coming back, which is why everyone has daffodils, is because they're just more or less guaranteed to come back. And just use the grit when you're planting them. The optimum time to be setting bulbs would be September to October. I know we'll get lots of people coming in, and probably January and February very confused of why we're not selling bulbs anymore, but it's basically too late. So you'd be hoping at that time to get something already planted up and already grown. So they do need, like, you know, some few weeks anyway to get going in the ground and to come up.
Is it too late now, or?
It's still a good time to plant. It is. It's probably outside the optimal perfect time, but November is still a good time to plant. We have plenty of them up there, and they will work. It's just the closer you get to Christmas, the less chance you have. The more chance you probably have of getting a few soft bulbs. If I had any soft bulbs, no. Also, when I'd be kind of planting these as well, I give them a bit of a squeeze. If they are soft, there's no point planting them, you can just throw them away. And if you are in a garden centre or somewhere and you get, like, you know, a good lot of the soft ones, and it's a reasonable time of the year, like, you should be giving them back and saying, you know, that these aren't good enough quality really. So always give them a bit of a squeeze first as well. Like I said, I love the daffodils, the miniature ones in particular. There's mixed variety there, different ones. I'd say the most popular ones is the tete-a-tete. We've probably all heard of them. Yeah, these are my most favourite ones actually, the Jetfire. I think they just give something a little bit different to the tete-a-tete. So the tete-a-tete have a yellow heart in the middle, whereas this is orange. And also the petals, the yellow petals are pulled backwards. I think it's supposed to be like a jet engine firing. So I think I saw them when I was in college, and I thought I was really taken with them. It's just a personal thing, hence the reason why we got them in Kinsale and they didn't get them in Bandon. But we're better than Bandon. Anyone been to the new Bandon Co-op Garden Centre in Bandon? No? Definitely worth visiting. So they just expanded the garden centre this year. They launched it for the first time in September. It's absolutely brand new and it's massive. Must be one of the biggest garden centres in West Cork now. There's a lot of stuff there. We're supposedly next for upgrade, so hopefully. Talks at the moment of our garden centre being 4 times bigger.
Wow.
Yeah, and coffee.
And coffee.
Coffee is the main one. Yeah, coffee's the main. But it's a small garden centre, so we're kind of limited to what we have. But
coffee entices people.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah. Hopefully we go bigger soon in the next 2 years or so. It'll be really exciting. Yeah, so that's most of the bulbs. And does anyone have any question about bulbs? Anything they had problems with or success with even? No?
When looking at the green pot that you have there, could you plant more than one layer of bulbs in
Yeah, you can
that
go.
depth?
You could go fairly close, alright. You could nearly go on top of each other. You could even in that one. You could probably do another layer in that. You don't really you don't want them deep at all, not in the pots. And one thing that I forgot to say actually, and one thing that I forgot to use is this and this compost. I don't know if you go to the co-op, but this is our best compost in my opinion that we sell anyway. And another one to do with bulbs and winter planting is it's definitely better to go for the higher quality compost rather than the cheap one. I know you can get a really cheap bag, probably half the price somewhere else, but the higher quality compost it's better moisture levels. So do you know, do you ever get a bag of compost and it's just absolutely sogging wet?
Yeah.
And it just stays wet forever? That's not great compost really now. And then the other opposite side of things is in the summer, it doesn't matter how much water you put in, it just won't stay moist, it's just dry. So what you want is something in between that gets rid of the moisture when it needs to and collects it when it has to as well. So I think Jack Magic is really good for that. And also there's seaweed in it. So there's good nutrients in it as well, and that's what I'd always be going for. When I plant up for customers, I always use Jack Magic and grit. So,
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I gave up using peat-based compost, and
Yep.
I suppose the one out in the co-op.
yeah, there's two orders.
Is it any good?
It's good. I still prefer using the Jack Magic. I don't know, it's my personal choice. They did a study on peat-free composts, and apparently the peat-free compost outperformed the peat version. I think that, I don't know, maybe it was biased or something, but I think the peat, the one with peat in it, outperforms, and I think it's better from using it for a long time. I just think it is a better quality. We should be going peat-free, and that's the way we have to go. All of the ones that we have peat in up in the compost, up in the co-op, are all peat reduced. So there's two peat-free ones. There's the peat-free one with John Irons, that's probably the one you use. It's buy two and get a third one free. And there's also another one called New Horizon, and that's organic and peat-free. So some people like the organic and peat-free. There'd be some fors and against with the peat-free stuff. So some of the ingredients that they're using in peat-free compost comes from halfways around the world. So shipping that all the way here is going against the environment anyway. Because there's a cost to the environment to travel this far. So also the way they use it, like we could be using stuff like sheep's wool and other things. They try and use coconut husks, but they have to come from halfway around the world. So there'd be fors and against them, but it's certainly what we should be all heading to, and all the plants that we have that come into our garden centre are peat free. So
Where does it come from?
most of the plants, or the peat,
The peat?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Westland is kind of English kind of product. So they're all Westland. We have lots of Westland stuff in the garden centre. It's another Westland one. You'll start noticing that name when you go into most garden centres. So a lot of it comes from England. That's something I should know actually. And this one that I forgot.
Which is what? What you're holding it up so quickly, so.
This one is feed. So this is a really, really good one when you're planting up a pot. I would say when you finished planting up your pot, say your summer stuff is all gone, I wouldn't reuse that peat for new plants. What I would do is I'd put it into the garden, make use of it in the garden or the compost heap, so you're not just dumping it. It is going to good use, but I would use fresh compost, and every time I plant up I would put some of these in. So this is 6 months slow release feed, so at least when you plant, this has got some seaweed in it, and this has got 6 month feed. So when you put the 6-month feed in, you know that there are some nutrients in there for 6 months anyway, at least. So that's what I do every time, because they need some nutrients, and it does wash out of the compost. So this one in particular is really good. You'll notice that there are all these small little balls. And if you go around to any garden centre, you'll probably notice these in the pots of every single plant, because that's what comes for every plant. They've got 6-month feed. So that would be my tip. It would be 1/5 grit, 4/5 Jack Magic, or peat free if you want to go peat free, and a little small sprinkle of this. It says it on the back how much you use. It's 20 grams per 10 litres. I just kind of, I'm not going measuring, so I just chuck a little bit in and it's all good. That would be definitely the way to go with potting up. Get rid of your old stuff, put your new stuff in, go for that ratio, it never fails. If you were, say, potting up lavender or something like that, I might put a little bit extra grit in. You could use sand. Do you know Aero board, the white stuff that comes in like washing machine? That's also another good one to use besides grit, because that just generally goes in the bin, so it's good to try and reuse that anyway. So if you had a really, really heavy pot, because sometimes you get massive pots and they're, you know, if you start putting grit into the heavy pot and the compost is wet, you never move it. So putting the Aero board in it makes it a fraction bit lighter anyway. That would be another use for the Aero board instead of chucking it straight in the bin.
Jeremiah, you might explain to us how to look after those pots over there.
The cyclamen?
Yeah, the cyclamen.
The dreaded cyclamen, the hateful plants. I was told when I started the co-op in my first season of cyclamen, by the end of it you'll hate them, and I do hate them. It's only because has anyone had success with cyclamen? No?
Yeah, I planted this year, they're dead already.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. So this is going to sound crazy because it's a winter plant, but they hate being wet. Yeah, they hate being wet, which is why they're frustrating. But the way to work with them is that when you're planting them in the pot, to use the grit and stuff, like I said, I will go even a step further with them, is when you make the hole in the pot, I just sit them on a small little bit of grit. Even if you wanted to go a bit further, you could put a layer of grit around here. So you can see this one already needs deadheading. So the tip with them is if you set them with grit, and even if you had a dry place, like you might put them on a window box under the fascia of the roof, the rain might not particularly fall on them, or you might have them under a sheltered bit is the way to go as well. Where you use them can be really clever with them, and you can get them to work a bit better. But definitely deadheading kind of twice a week, checking for any leaves that are gone a bit kind of dead. So that one there. So what happens is the flower goes a bit dead and mouldy, or the leaf goes a bit dead and mouldy, and you don't deadhead them, and then the mould will just spread. So if you go out about twice a week or once a week or however long you can and just deadhead them, they'll last way better. They'll be much better. So the trick really with them is remembering they like to be dry.
And if you keep them indoors?
No. You can get indoor versions as well, but they're grand outside. You just have to remember they like being dry. Use the grit, use the sheltered area, deadhead them, clean them up.
And in a shaded place rather than a direct sun.
They work in sun as well. It's generally not too sunny at this time of the year. I wouldn't be too worried about it. One that the rest I particularly really like, not so much the cyclamen, but the bellis, so they're daisies. Most people kind of go, daisies, I have them in my lawn anyway for free. But they're not really typical daisy. I think they do look pretty.
Yeah.
A lot of people come up and they say they wanted something planted for a grave or something outside and open. I would definitely be thinking daisies. They're not going to go mouldy and die on you. So they'll put up with the weather a lot better. I don't have any pansies or violas, but they're definitely a little bit better than the cyclamen, but again, they don't like being hugely wet. Nothing really likes being hugely wet. Some things put up with it better than others. The primroses, they definitely put up with it a little bit better, but all the same, it's worth deadheading them and just pinching out the old leaves as well, just to keep on top of them. Definitely go with the grit for everything. And one of my favourite things, they're a little bit more expensive than the others, are the Gualteria. I really like them. So they're evergreen, the leaf is a bit more waxy, so they don't tend to go mouldy at all. Also they're evergreen, so you'll have them in the summer. And before they berry, they get these nice little pretty white flowers on as well. And they don't grow too big, and they put up with a little bit of shade. And they kind of look Christmassy around this time of the year. I know we're all kind of looking at the cyclamen thinking, the cyclamen look way better. that's why they sell so well. People see them in the garden centre, and to be honest, we all buy with our eyes. When you just see the most colourful thing and you have to buy it. And there's a few things that I'm just like, oh, I don't know, I wouldn't get them. Would you mind maybe just breaking a few of them open and passing them around and smelling them? They do. It's quite interesting. I'll take another couple. So there's something interesting. There's another two there. So there's something interesting about them. I don't know, has anyone used Horticultural before for planting? Definitely highly recommend it. I'll be going away today getting loads. They don't get very tall at all. They might go maybe twice that, maybe 3 max. So if you haven't smelt it by now, it smells exactly like something very familiar. Maybe deep heat or something like that.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So before everyone goes rubbing it over themselves, you might be allergic, probably not, but it does give you pain relief, exactly like deep heat. So I learned this off a customer actually about 18 months ago, but it's definitely an interesting one.
And that's that little...
Yeah, the one with the berries, yeah. So if you break open the berries, and ideally you're not allergic to them, they do give you pain relief, and they genuinely do work. They're quite cool. They'd probably be one of my more favourite things. I know if you walk past my house you'll see loads of them, because I just couldn't be bothered with the cyclamen. I couldn't be bothered going in like twice a week looking at them.
Yes.
So I like kind of planting something and just leaving it be and doing its own thing. It probably comes from doing the 15 years of garden maintenance and not really having time to go back looking at every single plant. You kind of just want to plant it and it'll do its own thing. Certainly, like, you probably would have seen me up in the Ferrari. I did the Ferrari garden for 10 years. It was such a big garden that there just wasn't time to be going back looking at this plant and that plant, and things that did them look after themselves are by far and away my most favourite. And things that put up with the weather. We get a lot of people that will call in that's saying, I'm from Garrettstown, what plants would you recommend? I always end the conversation by saying they're probably all what you already have. Grasses and stuff like that. But I think that would be definitely me. I just probably don't want to after work go out looking at them all the time, so I just plant them up and they do their own thing. Any other bedding that anyone had any experience with?
Violets.
Pardon?
Violets, the native violets.
Oh yeah, they're lovely, yeah.
Ajuga.
Ajuga is a very good one. I really like Ajuga. If you haven't come across that, it comes in various different colours, like purples and variegated and different ones, and they've got a nice little flower. Again, they're evergreen. They put up with the weather much better. We have them at work. We have a small quantity of them. They just don't sell the same as the cyclamen because they're not as showy offy.
They're hardy.
They're very good.
My garden, it's one chance. If it doesn't make it, that's it.
Yeah, that's right.
And another one is one that you probably wouldn't have come across is calceophalis. It kind of looks like a small silver tumbleweed. It's like a silver plant. It's a really good one for the winter because, and I heard this off the supplier, so it always makes people laugh, is if it dies, it looks kind of very much similar. So most people are like, all right, but a lot of people kind of jump at that and go, oh, well, I'm a terrible gardener, this is the perfect plant for me. But it's nice, it's silver, and with the silver and the red, it looks quite well, and it doesn't need any maintenance. And we were going to talk about window boxes as well. So there's not much trailing plants at the moment, so we're probably all thinking of ivy. We can get trailing pansies at this time of the year. Sometimes they get black spot. But I kind of personally like vinca. This isn't from the co-op, it's just one from home. But vinca, it's just something different. And it's got a lovely little purple flower on it as well, so we don't get flowers off ivy, so it's a bit of a bonus. So if you saw my hanging baskets outside the front of my place, I've got vincas. They're about this long. They've been growing for ages.
What about heathers?
Heathers are good as well, but for the trailing purposes, I would vinca is a good one to keep your eye on if you're sick of ivy at this time of the year. The heathers are a great one, and delighted you mentioned them. So how many of us has planted heathers? All of us? Most of us? Does anyone know what kind of soil they like, or compost?
Acidic.
That's it. A lot of people wouldn't know. So, if you're going to plant your heathers and you're going to use Jack Magic, they're probably going to be a little bit unhappy. So they need the acidic compost or ericaceous. The soil in Kinsale is generally kind of neutral, so it's best to use a few handfuls of the ericaceous.
Would coffee grounds be acidic?
It might be, I can't
There's
remember.
a lot of coffee grounds on.
Pine needles are, anyway. Yeah. A bit of a tip as well with the ericaceous is, okay, you're buying a heather maybe a few this size. You probably don't want a whole 50-litre bag. Get the citrus bag in the co-op. It's 10 litres, so it's a fifth of the size, and it's also ericaceous. So, there's no point going away with a 50-litre bag of ericaceous compost for 3 headers. It's probably going to sit there for a while. It'll probably end up go off and everything. Also, with the headers, give them, when they're finished flowering, just give them a very light trim. If you cut them back too hard and they go brown, they generally won't go green again. So just the really lightest trim when they're finished. And there's ericaceous feeds as well, for headers, camellias, azaleas, rhododendrons, citrus plants. And while we're on the topic of feeds as well, because I did mention this, now isn't the best time to feed things. Generally you want to feed things in the growing season, say between April and September. We'll still get people come in and they'll say they want to feed their hedge or they want to feed it, but it's not going to have the same impact. It's not the same value for money. It's maybe a little bit maybe wasteful. There are also, if anyone is into being organic and not using chemicals, there is a feed at the co-op that is genuinely very, very good. It's called Soil Renew. It's an Irish product and it's got no chemicals in it, and it's very, very good. I would definitely have a look at it, Google it. We have leaflets as well. So I think a 3 kg bucket, which is about this big, it says it's equal to 1 ton of farmyard manure. I initially went in and I was a bit skeptical that it would be so good, but I used it in the front of my border of my house and everything came on better than I ever saw it come on. So you generally put that on in maybe autumn or spring. It works a little bit different from the chemicals, so you grow more bone meal and stuff like that. That kind of will give you an instant impact in 4 to 6 weeks, whereas the soil renew will take a little bit longer. But it encourages all the life bacteria in the soil and earthworms and everything, which is definitely the way we need to go. We definitely need to be thinking more about that. Even in the short time I've been at the co-op, you know, you used to get the little roundup, the little pre-made one. It was already mixed. That's off the market. You can't get that anymore. And every single year there's always something new off the market. There was a really good popular blight spray gone as well. So we kind of get like an A4 list of each year of what we're not allowed to sell anymore. Also even the rose clear. The rose clear, I don't know if you've ever noticed, remember the blue rose clear? They don't do that anymore, so it's all organic again as well. So it is good to see it, but the other aspect of the kind of being organic is it doesn't seem to work as well as the chemicals. Obviously there's a frustration there that they haven't brought out a product that is equally as good or that works as well.
I think the idea would be, if you have the organic, you're not going to eventually, if we all used organic, eventually the helpful insects will be helping also. And that's
Exactly.
the idea, right? We don't have any of those anymore.
Exactly, yeah. And even, I think I went to London recently, went to the Natural History Museum, and they had a whole, I don't know, like 30 bees that are like extinct since the last 50 years or something. I must say, even in my own 18 years in horticulture, it doesn't seem terribly that long, is that I've noticed massively from when I started cutting grass and doing all that by the time I finished the garden maintenance, there's way less bees, and they seem to be kind of not wetted as much. Like you drive the lawnmower up and you kind of, come on now, keep on. No, they yeah. But I think the chemicals affect their brains in a kind of a funny way that they're not quite copped on, and ideally we wouldn't use Roundup anymore. I did, when I was using it, only use it on gravel paths and stuff, to try not to do it on any flower beds or any soil or anything like that. But it's also the reason why it's going away is it's the way we used it, the misuse of using Roundup. I remember someone coming up to me at work and saying, oh, I'd like some Roundup and a litre of concentrated. And I kind of, you know, I always say, oh, you know, do you have a sprayer? And if they say they have a sprayer, like, well, you're somewhere halfway to them using it right. And I say, you know, look at how much you're supposed to put in per litre. And I always say, if you spray in a dry day, then it'll work. If you spray in a wet day, of course it's not going to work. So I say the same thing all the time, and I remember one time in particular I was a bit surprised. Someone said they were going to put it in a watering can, and I thought, it's not going to go very far, so they're probably going to put it on strong. But I said nothing. I said, oh, you have something to measure that with? And they said, no, you just put half in, don't you? And I thought, oh no. But we do have also a right to refuse. When you're in any retail, you have a right to refuse trade as well. So, you know, if that were to happen, you could say that, you know, I'm not going to sell you this product because you're going to misuse it. So that's half the reason why some of the ready-made Roundup doesn't exist anymore. It's just the misuse of it. Sure, we've all heard it before. I'll put it down stronger, work better. Fortunately, hopefully that won't be happening as much, and we'll go more organic. But it's just something to keep in mind. It is fairly deadly stuff. I think there's lots of cases coming against them. Hopefully they don't look at my YouTube video. And so that's most of the bedding and stuff. Also, it's a really good time of the year to plant hedges and trees. If you do want bare root hedging, then you have to order it now going forward. You don't just store it anymore, because what was happening is we might have, say, 100 laurel in a bucket, and you know, some people come up and take 5, some people came up and take 10, but we'd have a lot of dead plants because they're bare root. So we just do it to order now if anyone wants them, and there's the mighty selection there.
How long would the bare root season last there?
We go from the end of November to February.
Really?
Yeah, and there's pretty much anything you want in the bare root. There's a good selection there. It's way cheaper than going out buying potted plants.
Way cheaper and easier to dig them too, because you don't have the whole big pot.
Exactly, and if you're doing it now, this is the right time of the year, so they're most likely going to work. The mistake is maybe getting them in and not planting them. You just need to plant them straight away, really, and put a bit of goodness with them. If you're planting trees or any bare root as well, another tip would be when you're planting is use compost. You don't have to particularly use as high quality compost as the Jack Branches because it's going in the ground and it'll already have moisture retaining properties in the soil and nutrients. So it's not quite the same. You can use cheaper stuff, but I would make the hole twice as big as the pot and mix the compost through the soil, so it's not just sitting in pure compost. Nothing really particularly like sitting in pure compost, hence the reason for the grit as well. Mix it up, make the hole twice as big and mix it up and give it a good firming in as well, and especially the trees. There's going to be plenty of storms coming now as well. If you're in a windy area, you don't get some tree stakes as well. There's also a nice little sale on trees as well at the moment. We have magnolias, there's 33% off, and other trees up there as well at the moment. And even on one of the tips that I give very regular is someone comes into the garden centre, I've got this blank area from the door over to here to plant. Come in generally in the summer and kind of look at all the plants and go, God, I don't know where to start. You know, where do you start when you don't know all the plants? The easiest way to start, I think it makes more logical sense, is you start with something big first. If you have a really big area, you might consider trees, maybe smaller trees, apple trees or something, depending if the area is huge or whatever, you might go bigger trees. But I normally maybe consider a small tree first, then after that, say the trees, they won't fit into the area, you go for evergreen. So always start with evergreen. So if you have an area like that from this size behind here and you're going to plant it up, first thing that you need to remember is from now until everything starts shooting again, especially if you've gone with summer perennials, you'll be looking at just bare earth. So if you start with a base of evergreen stuff like the solanums or the Gualteria or bigger plants, you know that it's going to look quite well in the winter, because don't forget that there's a good chunk of the year where there's going on deciduous stuff, there's going to be nothing. So if you start, and if all you had your intentions with going to the garden centre is, I'm going to go away with enough evergreens today, I'm not even going to consider the summer flowering and stuff, I'm going to stay away from them. And then you come plant your evergreens, you see what space you have left, and then plant your summer. Then you'll have a much better balanced area all year round. That would be definitely the way I'd go with it. And then after that, it'd be further down the line is you'd be considering something in the spring, like the spring bulbs. You'd be considering something later, like later flowering summer stuff like alstroemeria or anemones or something like that. But once you start with evergreen, you kind of can't fail. And it makes life so much easier when you go into the garden centre, when you know that, okay, I'll just ask this fella, what kind of evergreens do you have? And then you pick your favourite few evergreens instead of going in thinking, okay, I have to fill this entire space. Now it's tough to fill a space like that all in one go anyway and get it right. It also helps if you do something repeating fashion. So maybe you might have 1, 2, 3 bigger things, and then you might go kind of another repeating fashion in the front, or you go clumps here and there, and you could make it formal. But doing that work beforehand going in certainly helps, because I've seen an awful lot of people going around to benches looking at names on things and trying to read them all and thinking, God help them anyway, they're going to be here a few hours if they're going to go around reading all them things. I feel sorry for them when they're going planting it. Because that's what I normally do. I just ask and I'll just say, just pick evergreens. I'll pick you my 10 favourite evergreens and you pick whatever ones you like out of them. And just go away with that, and it just makes life so much easier. We did have one lady come in this year. She spent quite a lot, but I don't know, she was going to do the area the size of this room, and it just made everything so much easier for her. She just came around one day and she had that, and then she came around a different day for the summer stuff. It just makes life easier that way. So I'm going to actually plant up this as well now. Does anyone have any questions? Burn them all. Get out the gun and start shooting them. So they're a nuisance. One really cheap trick for containers is, before you plant them up, because they get into the compost, is or when you're just finished, is just put a layer of Vaseline all around the rim. They won't go over the Vaseline. I know you can get the copper strip, but the Vaseline is so much cheaper. And trying to be maybe preventative about it until they build up. You can use beer traps and stuff as well. I just got absolutely sick of it at the front of my house with the amount of slugs and snails. I was just done with them. They were crawling up the walls and driving me mad and eating everything, and I got fairly annoyed with them. So I have a very small border. It's probably from maybe like these two tables combined, maybe a bit more. I just went away up to the co-op and I got a few bags of sand, and I just had like a good ½ inch of sand all the way across the top. So if it's dry, what's going to happen is the sand is going to stick to them, and they're going to absolutely hate it, and they're not going to go any further. And the same with the grit. Now, I'm sure people have bigger gardens than that are thinking there's no way I'm going buying ton bags of sand to get rid of the slugs. But for a small area, it works. Coffee grinds and citrus and grit. Eggshells. You need loads of them though. You need copious amounts of them. I was very lucky when I was up at the Friary that we had Skull Nave Enton were coming over, and I was teaching them vegetable growing once a month, 2 4ths, 5th and 6th. And I said, everyone just bring in eggshells, and I had 30 kids bring in eggshells, and that was brilliant. And we got rid of them alright, and especially in the polytunnel as well. I just did a layer of bark mulch all around the side. It's just so hot. They hate sharp, dry things. So grit, sand, bark mulch, it all helps. It doesn't particularly get rid of them either though. I think at one point there, I think it was last year. So 2024 was the coldest summer on record since the 80s, and 2023 was the wettest year since 1935. But we had such an amount of people coming in with slug problems that we ordered slug pellets, and we couldn't get them. We had to wait 6 weeks because they were just basically sold out everywhere. Westland just couldn't get them in. But trying to be preventative about it and get rid of them when there's a small volume of them would probably be the way to go. I don't know, have you ever seen this one before?
No.
Anyone know the name of it? I try not to put Solanum. Anyone know what family it's related to? Take a guess.
Tomato?
Yep. Yep. And does anyone know what tomatoes are related to? Or other famous thing we eat in Ireland? Potato, yeah. So the family is Solanaceae, and the potato is called Solanum tuberosum. So they're in the Solanum family. So there's a good variety of different types of Solanums. But this is kind of a more ornamental one. I wouldn't eat them. So originally when tomatoes came to Ireland and Europe in general, people wouldn't eat them because deadly nightshade is also in the same family, so they just assumed they were poisonous until one brave person decided to eat a juicy tomato. But I really like the Solanums. They're evergreen, and they've got these nice berries on them in the winter. At the end of the summer as well, they'll have the small white flowers, and that's when you can tell they're in the Solanum family. They just look exactly like small tomato flowers or potato flowers as well. they're maybe a slightly underrated one because they just seem to work, but the only thing is they don't work so well in graveyards because the birds like to eat the berries. But so I'm told anyway. But they work great at my place anyway, and a bit of shade. You can also see when I'm kind of planting, I just tease the roots out a little bit, helps them get started. What happens otherwise if you don't tease the roots out is they get root bound and they just stay in that shape of the pot, and the roots never grow outside that. So it's always good to tease them out a bit. Same with the Gualteria. But the Solanums are great. Did anyone know that the potato is called Solanum tuberosum? No.
It actually smells like potato now. When you put it in, I can smell it.
Yeah.
Something that smells like potato.
But that's one that I loved teaching the students is the Solanum tuberosum because I think one of the most confusing things about plants, and it is fairly confusing, is someone will come in and ask me a fairly common name of a plant, and sometimes I might pause for a while and think, shoot, I forgot the name of that thing because I've got about 1,000 names rolling around in my head. But part of the problem is people could have 6 different names for the one plant, so we all call them potatoes, some of us call them spuds. There might be a few other people call them poppies, and then there might be someone else that has their own name, but by the end of the day, you can have 6 different common names for the one plant, and then you're also thinking of the Latin name of the plant as well. But certainly the Latin names of the plants, I'm sure everyone knows, that's the scientific name, and if I go to Germany and I say, Gualteria, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Or if I go to China and I say Gualteria, well, hopefully they do anyway. Maybe not with my Kinsale accent, but it definitely helps when there's just the one name. Solanum tuberosum is a good one. The kids really love that as well. They were thinking of Harry Potter and stuff. It was great fun when we were all trying to repeat Solanum tuberosum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, has anyone watched Harry Potter or know about it?
Yeah.
No? Yeah. It's Wingardium Leviosa is one of the spells, and they all took great joy, and it sounded like that. So, just another one. And remember as well, if you don't have grit for the cyclamen, you might just go home and realise you don't have grit. It's just to plant them a little bit higher up out of the ground. So don't plant them the same level as they were, plant them a little bit higher up. That'll help them just stay that little bit drier as well. Any questions?
How long would you expect that to last? Would that be just for the season?
Yeah, the cyclamen would probably be the first to go. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Depends on how you take care of them and if I planted it up well. The cyclamen are probably going to be the first to go. The Gualteria is going to be evergreen, and the Solanum is going to be evergreen, and the Primrose is going to carry on anyway. So.
1 out of 4.
Yeah, so it would be quite a good one. Ideally, what I would have done is I would have probably used the Bellis instead, the daisies. I'd have put the Bellis instead of the cyclamen, but I just know that people prefer.
So if you lost a cyclamen, you could pull those,
Yeah.
put in something else in the spring or something.
Exactly, yeah.
Because the other plants Primrose will last.
Yeah, Primrose will last away. They just seem to do this impossible thing of flowering nearly all year round. They're brilliant plant. And there's a good few, like one of the unsung heroes of summer ones would be the Campagna. I love them. They're just evergreen in the winter. They got that purple flower. If anyone knows my father, they know he loves his Campagna anyway. So we've got about, 300 of them in the garden. They're a good one. I'd be kind of trying to be thinking maybe what would be evergreen and what would last longer rather than the more showy off pot with all the cyclamen. I must say I I really don't like seeing a pot with just 3 cyclamen in it. I just look at them and go, oh no, that's not going to last very long unless they really know what they're doing and it's full of grit and everything else. But yeah, definitely. So this is a prize for raffle at the end. If anyone wins it, just remember with the cyclamen, dead head. Try not to that mould to spread. This one there. I want to be good at it now, really, to be fair. It'd be bad if I wasn't. Yeah, we do. So we do planting up as well for our customers. If you bring in your empty pot, we'll plant them up, which most people don't know that we do. It can be a bit fun in the summer though. Yeah, we did have Haven Bay called to us and they did want 26 hanging baskets done. Yeah, I wasn't terribly pleased. I kind of had to come in at 7:30 in the morning just to get it started. Yeah, that would be it. Yeah, give them all cyclamen in the winter. They'll learn their lesson then not to come back to us. But yeah, it can get fairly busy in the summer. If you're looking to get your pots done in the summer, it can get kind of busy. So I'd probably, you probably come in and I might say that depending on what it is, it could take a week or 2 to get through them. And it's just they come in advance really, and we ring you when it's done. Because it's just mad. There could be just trolleys and stuff. Because the businesses like to get it done as well. So it's kind of mad. It's a difficult season when you're getting all the plants in, you're doing up all the pots for customers, and it's just crazy. There's about 8 weeks really where it's just kind of mental. But you'd be looking forward to it as well, because it's Garden Centre's up wide now, so I'd be looking forward to the challenge of it as well.
When does it start to get just nuts?
Starts to get nuts. Well, this year was unusual because it started really early in like the start of April. Remember we had good dry weather, but people started coming in looking for summer stuff at the start of April and looking for begonias and petunias. And me being me, like we can get them in, like if you want to get them in early, but I normally just say, you know, wait off until May, because what happens is if you get the summer stuff in early, the begonias or the petunias in particular anyway, is you can get a frost and that's it, they're all gone then. So there's no point really coming in until maybe the first week of May after the bank holiday. Because if you want them, like, you can get them. But the idea of having some of them in early as well, because you will go into garden centres, and ours we have a small mix of petunias, is some people like to start them early, so they might have a glass house or a polytunnel where they get a good early start and they have these, you know, really showy off ones. The petunias will be hanging down that far. That's probably how they do it. They start them off early. That's another one that I don't like, petunias as well. Yeah, there's a couple of plants. I must say that it's definitely on account of working with my father and doing 8 hours of deadheading petunias and hating them ever since. Going around miserable all day in town, deadheading these bloody petunias. Your eyes will be fit to fall out of your head after them, because it's kind of just a very repetitive thing that you kind of have enough after maybe an hour of it or something. But that's what keeps them absolutely unreal. You have to keep deadheading them. That would definitely be one of the tips of the summer, is if you want to go petunias, they like being drier than most stuff, and they need to be deadheaded and they need to be fed. And if you're not going to do that, go for the begonias. They're way less work and the flowers tend to fall off them anyway, so you kind of, if you weren't inclined to go deadheading every twice a week or once a week, go for the begonias. You'll see me up there recommending begonias like no one's business anyway. I think we've all been burnt by the petunias at one stage anyway, have we? Yeah.
They're so disloyal. I say we've been burned, they're so disloyal.
Yeah, it depends what summer you get. You see, like 2023, that was not a good year for petunias. The begonias would have definitely worked out better, but not the petunias. This year was a very, very good year despite a few weeks of rain, and I think it's something we all forget. You get a couple of weeks of rain and you think, it's been a desperate year. But, we're always complaining about the weather, but it's one of them funny things, because it was grey and miserable there for a while. Also, another thing for winter is, does anyone have tree ferns or any kind of delicate plants, mimosas, or any plants that need to be a bit protected? Not really as much? Well, maybe if you did, or you know someone did it, it's worth getting fleece. So there's this white kind of really light fabric, and just wrap the plant around. Especially you might have like a €300 tree fern, or you might just have, a mature plant that needs to be wrapped. Now is the kind of time to be thinking about it when you're getting down to zero. But the main thing is that I found over the past couple of years is it often gets down to zero and most of these plants are fine. I actually had someone come in. Does anyone, bougainvillea, does anyone know what a bougainvillea is? You'd see them on holidays in Portugal and stuff. Yeah. We had them there about 2 summers ago, and they were really popular again.
It looked well.
They had loads of flowers on it, of course they sold, but they need to be brought in for the winter, or covered. I did have a customer this last week come in, and he said, have this plant, I know I need to cover it or protect it for the winter. Do you have any plastic or anything like that? And I was just out of a matter of interest, I asked what it was, and he said I left it out last year, and he said it was a bougainvillea, and I thought, he was lucky. Yeah, I said, you forget about it, dig it up and bring it inside. But the main way we get caught out with losing the plants in the cold is most of them are alright. It'll go kind of 1, 0, maybe -1, but it's the days where it's quite mild today, and then tomorrow it goes down to -3. It's the jump is what catches them, or being really wet and cold at the same time. I lost loads of bedding fuchsias there. Was it 2 years ago? There was we had 2 years in a row where there was only one really cold day in the winter, and it went down to -6, just one day, and that's where most people lost them.
The fuchsias, it lost fuchsias?
Yeah, the bedding ones. The bedding ones are a bit delicate. The ones you'd see in the hanging baskets and stuff.
Not the hedgehog.
No, they're hardy as nails.
All right, that's what I.
Yeah.
It's not tough. It's not staying in my garden.
No. Yep. So when you see that temperature go down, it's a good time to cover them. Certainly, of a lot of things. I remember my father, and I'll never forget it. He did buy the fleece, and he still lost his plants. But do you know the spider plant?
I do.
Yeah. We have a little bit in our garden there, and it's covered with a plastic roof, and he had like 50 spider plants that he'd been propagating for years, and he lost the entirety of them.
Oh.
It was the winter where it went down, it just went from literally 2 degrees to -6 in one day, and that's where you lose them. And he's very adamant now that the fleece is fairly poor, but I said that you need to double layer it, and when you know that day is coming. Obviously some thin little piece of material isn't going to quite do it, but give it a good wrap.
Would ceanothus need to be protected?
No, that's kind of one that generally kind of has a certain lifespan, and you kind of tend to lose it anyway. They go woody after a while, like lavender. Mind you, I've seen a couple there recently. Richard Irwin's one is the most beautiful ceanothus I've ever seen in my life. I have to tell him that the next day.
They don't like wind then.
I don't know what he does with it.
Go ask.
But they do tend to go woody, and they kind of die after a certain amount of years. There's some plants that just have this certain lifespan, and that's kind of it, really. Anyone have any other questions about their gardens, or what's going right or wrong in them?
Can I ask a question? It's not about growing flowers, it's about getting rid of weeds. What would you recommend to use on block paving? It doesn't matter how often I clean it and everything, the weeds just...
They keep coming back up. Yeah. Well, if it was on paving, I'd probably say the disappointing thing and just spray them with poison. But you can burn them. That tends to be very time consuming.
Burn them?
Yeah, you can get a little burner, and you can kind of burn them. You can actually, I think you can get them at work actually. There's a little bit of gas in it. It's like a little flamethrower kind of thing. That tends to be very time consuming. I have done that and it is very time consuming. Spraying them on a good dry sunny day.
Just spray them with
Roundup or something like that. See, the problem is now that we've got a lot of ready to use weed killers, but they're not that strong. And if it's really bad weed, was it like dandelions and stuff?
No, it's not dandelions, it's just green weeds, I suppose.
Yeah, there's some are more difficult to get rid than others. Roundup is generally quite a good one, or Gallop is a cheaper version of Roundup. It's just not
I
got
thought
the
they were cancer causing, carcinogenic.
Yeah, I know. You can use, I think you can use vinegar, and there's a bit of a, really there's only two ways that I'd be doing it, is either hand do it or spray them. They're gonna come back anyway.
Yeah.
It's just a case of keeping on top of them. But I know that's really what I was looking at, what you're looking at when someone was paying me in garden maintenance. Were they going to pay you to get down on your hands and knees for 8 hours and pay your hourly wage for 8 hours, or were they going to pay you for half an hour spraying? That's unfortunately the realistic kind of way that why we use poison, because we don't want to do that anymore. But it would be basically poison, or get down your hands and knees and try and get up all the roots. So when you cut off the top of them, they're just going to shoot back up. You need something that'll kill
I've used
Yeah, it can work as well. Yeah. Yeah, and you can I think there's one, isn't it? You can use vinegar and a mix of something else as well. I think that's it, yeah. I haven't tried it. I generally had to do really large areas, and the only way to do it was Roundup, which is horrible. I hated use. No, there's no magic way, unfortunately. Another one that I actually hated is the weed membrane. You know, using the weed membrane. Now, yeah, it just has a certain lifespan, and the weeds will come up eventually. It's great when you put it down and you put all the bark mulch down and you put all the stones down. It does look poor if you don't cover it enough, but it's got a lifespan. I remember going to the Ferrari for the first time when I very much started there, and seeing an entire bed that was 3 times the length of this room with the weed membrane, and the roots were on this side of the weed membrane and the foliage was up here.
I was gonna say, with Tidy Town, I'm in Tidy Town, we put newspaper, big thick layer of newspaper, and then the mulch. And Max went over there and said, nothing's come up yet, and it's been months. And I took, I have a lot of ground, and I took my old cardboard, put that down first, then mulch on top of that, and it's really very effective. Much better than that membrane, that stuff's awful.
Yeah, like it does work, and cardboard is good as well. A lot of people use that method in vegetable growing, so you know, you're probably come to the end now where there's not really much veg in your garden, so a lot of people use cardboard and newspaper, and it does work.
Now, it wouldn't work with the paving for sure, but if you have, I have a lot of beds, and I put down the cardboard, really helps.
Basically, it's as simple as this: if they don't have light, they're not going to grow. So that's what the cardboard and the paper does. It's very simple. People use it a lot in veg growing. Another way of maybe not doing that in veg growing event. Does anyone do veg growing much? No. Do you ever use green manure? Do you ever use green manure?
Yeah, Ernest makes his own, yeah.
So it's actually a kind of a crop that grow, and so they'll add nutrients to the ground.
Clover, we've done clover before, and also some
legumes.
Nettles, and also he does a lot of peas, you know.
Yeah, because they're nitrogen fixing, so they fix nutrients to the soil, and obviously when there's a thick crop or something, the weeds aren't going to grow up through it. You cut them and then you dig them into the ground. It's another good, useful way of doing something with bare ground. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. And there's this and this. if anyone wants to buy any of the plants, they can buy now. I have a list of prices.
Oh, I really want to buy some of those cyclamens now.
Yeah.
Sold them.
I didn't sell them very well. But obviously I didn't bring much down because look, the co-op is only up the road. I normally do bring to my talks more stuff. And if by the way, if there's something, if you go into the co-op and there's something that you want that's not there, it is possible to get it. We can get it brought from Bandon or we can do an order. So, yeah. Thanks very much.
Thank you.